talk about Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks find themselves in a very precarious situation. They just fired the general manager, Landry Fields, and for the right reasons. When I look at the Atlanta Hawks right now, you have a lot of decisions to make moving forward. You have a very young basketball team. Pretty much everyone is under the age of 26 that's important to this roster, with the exception of Karis LeVert, who is a very solid bench player. But the biggest elephant in the room is Trae Young. And I want to start this video off by talking about Trae Young. Trae Young is up for a massive contract extension. Trae Young has not been the same player that he once was in 2021. He is still one of the best point guards you can have. Don't get me wrong. He just led the league in assists. He's one of the best playmakers coming out of the backcourt. The problem is this. They've hit their ceiling with Trae Young so far. That 2021 season was special. They went to the NBA playoffs. On top of that, they went to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. And there is no shame in losing against Giannis and the Milwaukee Bucks. But we saw Trae Young series in, series out against the New York Knicks and against the Philadelphia 76ers. He had big time moments. And even when he's not shooting that well from the field, just the mere presence of him roaming around off ball and shooting threes, a lot of defenders, they fear that. So it leaves other players on the court wide open across the rim, on the back end, on the corner threes, and on top of the wing. When I look at Trae Young, one of the best players you can have, he is a franchise guy. They need to do a better job of putting talent around him. And if they can't do a better job of that, it is time to move on because he is an undersized player. I'm a major Trae Young fan. I'm a Trae Young guy. But I'm also a realist. I don't see Trae Young being a number one option on the championship contending team. But I do believe that he could be a very good number two option. Now, let me explain. The reason why Trae Young and the Atlanta Hawks worked in 2021, John Collins also played like a madman. He was very good in terms of getting to the rim and shooting mid-range shots. They have a player in Jalen Johnson who is similar to John Collins, but he's more versatile than John Collins. He can play the small forward position. He can play the power forward position. Solid mid-range shooter, but he is known to go out there and get to the rim on a consistent basis. He averaged 19 points a game, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. You may be saying, okay, why are you bringing up Jalen Johnson? When he was fully healthy, the Atlanta Hawks were the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference because they had a two-man game with Jalen Johnson and also with Trae Young. Say what you want to say about Trae Young's defense. They also had a top 15 defense in the NBA during this stretch. So the fact when you were fully healthy, you were the 4th seed and you had DeAndre Hunter, you were cooking with something. But when the injury started to hit the Atlanta Hawks, they fell down the Eastern Conference. They went to play-in territory. They need to put better defenders and better scoring options around Trae Young. Now, the defense is there. I would give them that. Jalen Johnson, when he's fully healthy, he tore his labrum in his shoulder. He's a very good basketball player. He's their second best offensive player. Ideally, you want him to be your third best offensive player. Dyson Daniels, you got him in the trade with the New Orleans Pelicans when you traded DeJounte Murray to that organization. He broke out as an offensive threat at times, but he really broke out as a defensive star. He deserves to be Defensive Player of the Year. He led the NBA in complete steals in terms of playing the passing lane and in one-on-one situations and man-to-man situations, especially in full court press. Dyson Daniels was very good on defense this year. He was very inconsistent on the offensive end. If he can develop as an offensive threat consistently, and you have Trae Young, they could easily be one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference. You look at Dyson Daniels, a career high 14 points a game, 4 assists, 6 rebounds, shot 50% from the field, but the three-point shot was 34%. I need to see him shoot more threes. Put some more volume there because he was very efficient from three, especially when he was red hot. The one thing with Dyson Daniels, he struggles to go out there and create his own shots. And that's not a major problem because he's only 22 years old. Trae Young is only 26. Trae Young led the league in assists. He also led the league in turnovers. Averaged 24 points a game, 3 rebounds, 11.6 assists, shot 41% from the field, shot 34% from three. That's very inefficient for a player of his caliber. But the reason why he struggles so much within the last few years since 2021, they don't have another player that can go out there and take the basketball away from Trae Young and say, don't worry about it. I can get you involved and I can also create shots for myself. They don't have that player right now. You selected Zachary Ricochet with the first overall pick. Zachary Ricochet is more so of a 3-and-D player. Terrific three-point shooter when he's red hot. Very good defensive player. And it's going to take some time for him to fully develop. He's just a rookie. I think within the next 2 to 3 years, he could be one of the best two-way players in the NBA. Hopefully, he can develop his dribble move set and he can create his own shots consistently. But they're putting a lot of stress right now on Trae Young. And we saw this against the Miami Heat. We saw this against the Orlando Magic when they put Andrew Wiggins on him. The same with Bam Adebayo and Davion Mitchell. Their offense took a major step back. They would go 4 to 5 minutes without scoring because Trae Young's the only man that can go out there and create his own shot on a consistent basis. And we saw this against the Orlando Magic. And you're forcing Trae Young to go across screens and shoot immediately. That's why the three-point percentage was down this year. When they had John Collins with this roster, that was the ideal fit. And that's why they really worked out with Jalen Johnson early on in the year. They can get to the rim. They can create their own shots. They can put a lot of pressure on the basket. It's going to draw defenders to the basket. They kick out to Trae Young. Doesn't mean he's going to be a catch and shoot player. It means that he can go out there, catch the basketball, swing the ball to someone else, hit the three. That is when Trae Young is at his best, when he can fully see the court, and that mere presence of that three-point shot is going to always have defenders jumping. And then he can get to the lane, draw a foul, maybe it's the and one, but he's guaranteed to get free throws regardless. That's how you want Trae Young to be used. That's what made the Atlanta Hawks special in 2021 and that postseason run against the Milwaukee Bucks, especially when they went against the Philadelphia 76ers. A lot of people give Ben Simmons a lot of blame, and they say that Ben Simmons was terrible in that series. Offensively, he was. His defense was there. Trae Young had a terrible game in that matchup, scoring-wise. But even though his scoring wasn't there and the shooting percentage was terrible, what was Trae Young able to do? Get his teammates involved. And when he had an off day, John Collins was there. So I'm looking at the Atlanta Hawks. Don't trade Trae Young. See what this team can fully do when they're fully healthy. I hate the fact that they traded DeAndre Hunter. Now, this is the portion of the video to where I get into Landry Fields and why they fired him. He was not a good general manager. And the owner with this team is one of the worst owners in the NBA. They're a poverty franchise. Let's just call it for what it is. But when I look at Landry Fields, he mismanaged his team all the way down to the T. They gave John Collins a major contract extension. Very good basketball player. He was not worth a max contract, but you gave him a max contract. You went on to trade him to the Utah Jazz for a second-round pick in Rudy Gay. Rudy Gay never played a single game for the Atlanta Hawks. He didn't play one. So you traded him for just a second-round pick, essentially. You go out there, you trade 3 unprotected first-round picks and Danilo Gallinari, who was a phenomenal three-point shooter with the Atlanta Hawks. Very good basketball player. The ideal type of wing to have alongside Trae Young. You traded him to bring in DeJounte Murray from the San Antonio Spurs. Now, I can't really push back on this trade at the time because I was a major fan of it. You have Trae Young. You have DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is the perfect player on paper to have alongside Trae Young. Trae Young will never be a good defender because he's only 6'1". He's undersized. But Murray was a definition of a two-way player with the Spurs. He could get to the rim, shoot the mid-range shot. He was a solid three-point shooter. The problem was this. Both of the players need the basketball in their hands. And Trae Young, off ball, was atrocious. And the same with DeJounte Murray. They really liked playing with each other, but it did not equate to wins. And the offense took a major step back when they were both on the court. So the coach went out there. He'll sit down Trae Young. The offense will be better with DeJounte Murray. He'll put them back together. The offense takes a major step back. He'll take out DeJounte Murray. The offense takes another step forward. The offense statistically was better with Trae Young. But both the offenses were decent. This was also a problem. When they took DeJounte Murray off the court, their defense took a major step back. And when he was on the court, it was only slightly better. DeJounte Murray was supposed to come in and be that two-way star. The defense was not as strong as it was with the San Antonio Spurs, and he had some good defensive moments, but he was not that all defensive guard that he once were in San Antonio. So you had to move on from someone, either Trae Young or Murray. Well, you drafted Trae Young in the first round. You made the move with the Dallas Mavericks to bring him in. You moved on from Luka on draft night. So you're not going to trade Trae Young. And the Atlanta fans, they love Trae Young. So you move on from Murray. You trade him to the New Orleans Pelicans. You get back Dyson Daniels. That's a very good move. But it's those 3 first-round picks that are going to hunt you in the future. And they're all unprotected. That was a terrible move to make. and you panicked. On paper, it should have worked out, but it didn't. And the general manager deserves a lot of blame. And the same with ownership, because the owner, he doesn't want to pay anyone. He does not want to hit that luxury tax. That's why they moved off of John Collins. And you traded John Collins too late. If you were to go out there and trade him sooner, you would have got more for him. In general, you should have got more than just a second round pick in Rudy Gay. At least get a first round pick and a rotational player. But you only got a second round pick for John Collins. But I look at the base roster that they have. They don't have bad players. They're just young. In free agency, I'm begging the Atlanta Hawks, please go out there and bring in another consistent scorer that can help out Trae Young. Please bring in some more defensive players that can come off the bench and give Trae Young some relief. Trae Young, you can say that he is inefficient at times. He's overrated because he can't play great defense. I'm not going to push you back on that argument. But I will say this, his offensive impact is one of the best impacts in the NBA. Easily. You may want to compare him to Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is a better player than Trae Young, but he's only 26 years old. The fact that he can hit logo threes, he can hit threes from anywhere on the court. He has a very good floater game. He can get to the rack on a consistent basis. He's a solid mid-range shooter. And he can be very efficient in the right system. That's the one tricky part with the Atlanta Hawks. They had the right team many years ago and they dismantled it. But when you look at Jalen Johnson, you look at Onyeka Okongwu, who was a very good player at the center position. Zachary Ricochet, Dyson Daniels, they're all young. You do have Terrence Mann, but Terrence Mann is only averaging 7 points a game, 3 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field. It is what it is for Terrence Mann. Many people thought he was going to break out with the Los Angeles Clippers. He never did. And I also hate the fact that they traded DeAndre Hunter to the Cleveland Cavaliers. What was the reason? Because you're dealing with so many injuries. DeAndre Hunter averaged 20 points a game with the Atlanta Hawks. That's the ideal player to have alongside Trae Young, to have a bunch of scoring options that are bigger bodies that can help take pressure off of Trae Young. And the one thing with DeAndre Hunter, he can create his own shots, not on a consistent basis, but consistent enough to give Trae Young a rest, to give him a breather. You look at his usage rate. He has one of the highest usage rates in the NBA. And we're talking about Trae Young, who has dealt with injuries in the past, and the same with DeJounte Murray. If that trade was to go out there and work out, they would have easily been one of the better teams in the Eastern Conference over the last 3 to 4 years. But that wasn't the case. The young players you have right now, they just need some veteranship. That's it. And you need to take that pressure off of Trae Young. Look at what the Golden State Warriors have done with Stephen Curry. They brought in Klay Thompson, who was a terrific perimeter defender, terrific from three in his prime. And they have Draymond Green, who can facilitate the offense through himself. You have that in Jalen Johnson, but it's not good enough just yet. Maybe one day it will be. But I like the Atlanta Hawks. I think the future is bright. Just stick with Trae Young. That's it. Don't move on from him right now. If it doesn't work out in the next year or two, then you can move on from him. He'll still be in his 20s and you can get a lot for Trae Young. But right now, we're talking about a player that has a year left on his deal, has dealt with injuries in the past. He has not put up the same numbers that he did 2 to 3 years ago. So you know a team may go out there, they may try to lowball you. Don't go for it. Keep him around and build around him. As far as the owner, you have to go out there and be able to spend money, be willing to spend money. Hit the luxury tax. Just don't hit the second apron. You'll be okay. But the Atlanta Hawks, they should not be in this situation year in and year out. And I've seen Trae Young go out there and score 40 to 45 points in a matchup, and they still lose by 10 points. That is how bad they have been over the last couple of years since that playoff run against the Milwaukee Bucks. You can say Trae Young deserves some blame, and that is true. Two things can be true. Trae Young hasn't played his best in pivotal moments, but at the same time, the talent hasn't been the best around him. I still think he will be a very good number 2 option alongside a true superstar. But the fact they were a top 4 seed when they had DeAndre Hunter, Jalen Johnson was fully healthy, Trae Young is getting the basketball to all those players. You have Onyeka at the center position, and Clint Capella, he was able to come off the bench and give you very good minutes at the center position. Because the one thing with Trae Young, he will throw lobs, he will set the centers up, he'll throw them open in the post. He's very accurate with the basketball, and he's very accurate with his passes. He'll pass the basketball in between your legs. We've seen players get upset about that before when he does the nutmeg pass, and he'll just nutmeg it to himself and shoot the 3. He's very creative and crafty with the basketball. I just want to see Trae Young get some more help with the Atlanta Hawks. if you ask the question, if they trade him, where's the best spot for him? The Orlando Magic. And they can give you a lot of good players in return. But when I look at the Atlanta Hawks, even when Trae Young is on the bench, you have one of the worst offensive net ratings in the NBA. So trading him, you easily become one of the worst teams in all of basketball with a fully healthy team. And when he's there, you're the 4th best team in the Eastern Conference. At the worst, you'll be the 6th best team in the Eastern Conference. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the Atlanta Hawks and should they trade Trae Young? If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God bless.